Hey class, welcome back. If you check out the board behind me, we've got a little bit of an overview of what we did in the last couple days in class. And I wanted to point out the first thing on current events. We watched a little bit of CNN 10. I'd say probably only about 4 minutes from yesterday's CNN 10. Those are nice overviews. Do check them out when you get a chance. The one that they had today went through murder hornets. Like 2020 couldn't get any better. Now we're dealing with murder hornets in the United States. Now, murder hornets are put up there partly because, of course, they're in the news, but it's a very good example of one of the things that we're talking about in this unit, specifically extinction. We talk about what happens when a species goes extinct. And we are dealing, unfortunately, right now with a tremendous number of species going extinct. Two of the largest reasons for extinction are up on the board right here: invasive species and loss of habitat. Quick local example of invasive species. For example, if you live in Pacifica, like most of us do, you've got eucalyptus trees all over the place. I hike consistently at San Pedro Valley Park. You see eucalyptus trees all over the place back there, but they're not native to this area. They come on in. They were planted originally as borders between people's farms and their land, and they grow very, very quickly, but they grow so fast they push out native plants. We have a big problem keeping coastal cypress, a lot of pine trees, oak trees. They're being pushed out by these invasive eucalyptus. There's also this other one called broom bush, which you see all over the hillsides around here. Again, not native. They were not planted on purpose. They found their way here, but now they're, again, pushing out local species. And when that happens, when you have an invasive species come in, something that's non-native, it very often pushes something to the brink of extinction. And then also loss of habitat. This one's kind of obvious, and I know that we've talked about it before, but if a species doesn't have a place to live, doesn't have a niche, doesn't have a habitat, chances are it's going to go extinct. You can't keep a species going just, for example, in the zoo. So check out the CNN 10 on murder hornets today. Murder hornets, their everyday name now, but they are non-native. One very unfortunate thing too, apart from the fact that they can attack people, is they can decimate. They can completely destroy a honeybee hive in a few hours. And as you probably know from previous classes, honeybees in the United States and around the world are really taking it on the chin right now. They have a lot of pressures, and honeybees are critically important for our food supply. We're going to talk about that more next week when we talk about pollutions and toxins in the environment. So do check that out. We went on to watch 7 minutes. We took about 6 or 7 minutes for a little clip from Bill Nye, the Science Guy. If you check out this particular one, it was on the food web. And if you look at the online notes, we have a couple of online notes as an example. If you did not get your 6 facts from Bill Nye, he does a pretty good job of giving you an overview. They used to call it the food chain all the time, and they still do. You hear that term food chain occasionally, but it's usually been replaced by food web now, trying to get across even more the interconnectedness between species. Everything depends on something else. Down here we had our 14 key terms. Usually key terms are given at the beginning of the week and they're for the whole week. However, there's 14, which are more than usual. Usually we only do 10. 14 is going to carry us through 2 whole weeks. We are in week 10 right now. Next week, week 11, we're going to be using these 14. We're going to be adding one more next week, one single one next week. The word pollution, straight out of chapter 3. But basically, these key terms here, these vocabulary terms, will carry us through the next couple weeks. Remember, your homework this week is an online test. The online test for Wednesday is an unusual one. It's a true-false test. We don't do too many of those, but this particular one is. True-false tests are really interesting. Remember, on a true-false test, you have 90 minutes to take these 22 questions once you begin. You got to read each question very carefully. True-false tests are a lot of times, one single word makes the difference. So you got to really be careful on true-false tests. Okay, so take your time with it. You've got 90 minutes for 22 questions. The next part of the class, let me switch the boards here. The next part of the class, we very, very quickly went through an IBL, our Ingrid B. Lacey, our school, our food web. Now, a food web that you might be seeing from your textbook or from the one that they give us looks something like this. Kind of pared it down a little bit to one, keep it local, and keep it a little bit more with things that are actually, every one of these I've seen on campus over the last week or so. I showed all the students pictures, for example, of the coyote, big coyote too, that was seen right here out the classroom door the last couple of weeks. The coyote saw it hunting gophers, moles. We kind of simplified the web, trying to, one, keep it local, and two, make the point that when you look at a food web and you look at the interconnectedness of the living things that are right here on our own campus, the points that I'd like you to take from this are: one, every single thing you see on the web depends upon every other thing you see. Up here I had the extra little challenge: where do you think people would go on this web? And finally, the one thing, the student's job, of course, was to add the arrows to say how they think these things are connected. But here was the extra little part that I wanted you to take away, mentioned it several times during the introduction, during Bill Nye, during the key terms, and during the lecture part, is please notice that the plants, the photosynthesizing organisms, are at the base of the food chain. Or, if you will, they are the most important part of the food web. Again, we use the term web much more than chain nowadays, trying to make the point that when you're looking at things that consume other animals, other plants, things like that, not other plants, but animals that consume plants, I should say, the plants are the basis for the food web, but the web really gets across the idea that's an interconnectedness. So, quick recap of the week. Don't forget to take our weekly test. It's online. You've got the link at pacificascience.org, which I believe is posted right there. You have an extra day on that. Usually the tests are always due Wednesday at 3. Because I got it out there a little bit later this time, make sure that you take it by Thursday at the end of the class day. Your 14 key terms, those are to define in your notes. And don't forget to get your notes if you've missed any of them at pacificascience.org. Have yourself a wonderful week 10, everybody. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you online. Bye-bye.